Everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Jon Horn. Jon, it's great to connect with you, CEO of StubGroup, digital ad agency and premier Google ad agency. You've helped over 2,000 clients across 15,000 campaigns with their paid ads. Let's talk about this, because I think this is a topic, unless you're doing it, people find it very confusing. With algorithms, ad agents, with ads, as far as how long to do them, where to put it, what to do. There's a ton of stuff. So let's start off with, just step one. When is a company ready to start doing Google ads? And how much, and what is not how much do you cost, but what's an investment that they should think about, it not only in dollars-ish, but also in time?
I generally see companies using Google Ads kind of in two different ways. You have companies using it to prove a model, or prove a concept. So for example, a startup, they can't wait 12 months to invest into organic SEO to figure out if they can actually get traffic for things and where that traffic converts. And so they might use Google Ads essentially as a shortcut to see, hey, are people searching for these things? If so, and they're clicking through to our website, are we able to convert them into leads? Is our messaging right? If not, let's test it, iterate it. How do we improve over time? So sometimes you'll have, brand new businesses who really don't have anything figured out yet, using Google Ads to figure things out, which is not a cheap way to figure things out, but it is a fast way to figure things out.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Well, but on that topic, I like what you're talking about, where it may not be, well, I hate using the word expense, but the investment gets you the information you need faster. And so talk about that, because I think that's something that everybody's trying to figure out, right? How do I beta test A versus B and get information faster so I can make a decision?
Yeah, so we really don't live in a world, generally speaking, where if you build it, they will come online. Like that's not how it works.
Doesn't work.
You have to go out and get people, because there are so many draws on people's attention, so many options for people. And so if you're a startup, I'm going to pick a random company. Let's say you are a new email marketing company. You're focused, you have a software to help people, send out emails to their lists or whatever. Well, you are not going to really cut through the noise of, let's say, organic rankings anytime soon, because you have established competitors who have that spot. You don't have domain authority, things like that. But you can enter the auction and you can say, okay, well, there's a lot of different ways that people search for email marketing. You have a straight up email marketing software, best email marketing software. You could go after those types of keywords and see, hey, how expensive is it to get these clicks, and at what rate do they turn into customers? You've got other approaches like, competitor conquesting, of saying, hey, there's the top people in my space, or whatever, MailChimp, Constant Contact, etc. Great. Well, I'm going to target people who are searching for them, and I'm going to, in my ads, explain why I'm better than them. Like, what is their pain point, whether that be, whatever that pain point is. Great. I'm going to put my ads, I'm going to say, here's how we solve that pain point. And let's see if we can convert, get people to switch over. Or there could be, other categories of keywords we might go after, more longer tail, whatever. And so you can, go after these things. You can go after them relatively quickly, and you can see, A, is there traffic? Are people actually searching for this need? Do they have this need? If they have traffic, great. Are our ads compelling? Are they clicking through and at a good click-through rate, so that Google says, okay, yeah, these ads are relevant. If so, great. But then when they're getting to our website, are they converting into leads? And it's basically each step of that process, your ad copy, your website, your messaging, your offers, you need to be testing and figuring out, okay, well, maybe people are clicking our ads, great, but they're not converting on our website. Why? Let's test different offers, different messaging. Do we need to start with a free demo? Do we start with a free month? Do we need to, fill in the blank? Is a pain point that people have, big email lists in their current provider, and we're not explaining how they can switch them over to us? Great. Well, let's fix that. And so, paid ads is really a way to just quickly get traffic so that you can test assumptions and see whether or not what you have is appealing to the market you're going after.
Can we define traffic? Thanks for that. That was like a master's class. But can we define traffic? Because I think, sometimes when we think traffic, we think bumper to bumper, but sometimes, and you tell me, if the right 20 people come, right, it's not, should people's expectations be that traffic means we're going to do a Google ad and get 10,000 people, or if we get the right 100 people, right? So just kind of define that a little bit.
Yeah. Defining traffic, really, it's just people who are reaching your website or wherever you're sending them to on online, which is typically your website. And like you said, traffic is not created equal. So I could get 10,000 high school kids going to my website who have no money to spend or interest to spend in buying email marketing software, and that's not a good thing. I could get 100 people who are in my target audience who want to purchase. And so, 10,000 sounds a lot better than 100, but if those 100 are the right people and they're actually going to purchase my product, I want those 100. So
Yeah.
it's not about getting as much traffic as possible. It's about getting the right traffic and then as much of that right traffic as possible.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like it. All right. So let's talk about, a campaign. What makes a really good campaign? Where do people get it wrong? What are the nuances that create activity?
First place a lot of people go wrong is not really having a goal or strategy when they start a campaign of more, I'm just going to throw stuff at the wall and stick and see what sticks. And there are certainly aspects of that are true. You've got to collect data to see what's working and what's not working. But to even say that, to say what's working and what's not working, you need to have a goal. What is it we're trying to accomplish? Is it people calling me? Is it people, filling out a form on my website? Is it showing up in my physical location? Whatever. Great. Okay. So that's the goal. And then, how much of that do I need to see for this to be successful? Which really goes down to what's my cost per lead or my return on ad spend. And so you might have a situation where you run a campaign and you're like, oh, I was just going to see what sticks. And then you run it for 3 months. And then you're like, well, we got some more business, but I don't really know. Did it come from the campaign? I don't know, because I wasn't tracking where it came from. I'm not really sure how much of it came from that. So I don't really know if the money I spent was profitable or not. And I see that happen so often. And maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't good, but you don't know. And then you also don't know which aspects of the campaign worked and which didn't. So you can't improve upon that, cut the waste, double down on what's working, and go from there. So that's probably the biggest, just an initial big picture mistake that we see time and time again.
And so what do people do? I mean, of course, they can call you and you can, make sure that they're doing everything right, throughout the continuum of how they need to be moving through that. If they do it on their own, what do they need to do to prevent that?
So let's talk strategical and tactical. So from the strategical standpoint, understanding what your numbers are as a business, and having general benchmarks and ideas of what you need to see from your campaigns for that to work. So if you're an HVAC company, you should have a sense for, can I afford to spend $100 to get a lead, or $2,000 to get a lead, based upon your lifetime value, what you're selling to people, your close rates, things like that. And then from a tactical perspective, you need to track as much as possible of what's happening from the campaigns you're running. And there's a lot of things you can do to track. So let's say you're running Google Ads campaigns. You can get tracking code from Google Ads. And let's say you have a form on your website that people are filling out for a free demo. You can put some code on the thank you page for that form. And so you'll know when someone clicks an ad, fills out that form, Google will tell you, hey, you got a conversion. Someone fired this tracking code on this thank you page. You can also use call tracking software to do a similar thing where you're tracking phone calls that are coming from your website and tracking them back to campaigns. If you sell physical products, again, same thing. You can set up tracking so you can see this order came from these campaigns, things like that. And it's not perfect. There are always going to be some gaps in that tracking. But the more you can track, the better you can track, the better a sense you will have, at least directionally, for whether or not the campaigns are profitable for you.
Yeah, I like that. Let's talk about lifetime value of a client. I think sometimes people don't pay attention to that number enough, right? It's the cost to get a client, but then the lifetime value of a client. So can you just kind of talk about both of those? Because I think those are important numbers when people look at the cost of Google Ads or a strategy or things of that nature.
Yeah, let's take that HVAC company as an example. A lot of people really think about marketing and advertising in the context of the money they initially get from a client. So let's say let's say they're selling maintenance. I'm just going to make up numbers. Let's say they charge $1,000 for maintenance. So they're going to say, okay, well, we're making $1,000. So we need to get a lead for whatever, 400 or 200 or whatever. We have these hard costs and overhead and so forth. And we're only making 1,000. But if that customer, if let's say, 50% of your customers then become recurring revenue to you, and that 5 years down the road, they're going to need a new air conditioner and they're going to pay you $10,000 for a new air conditioner. Well, your lifetime value is way different than the initial value. And this, it requires really understanding your numbers, understanding what percentage of people come back over time, things like that. But you can very easily get a situation where it could actually be profitable for you to make less money on the initial sale than you paid to acquire the customer if there's a lot of lifetime value of money you're going to generate from that customer down the road. And that's where a lot of the really smart advertisers, they can bid very aggressively and they can kind of push people out of the market who aren't as sophisticated because they know this number. And so they can afford to dominate things internally and spend more money than you think would make sense to get that customer because they've got their process in place to then make a lot of additional money from that customer down the road.
Let's talk about algorithms, and how, your ad campaigns that you're doing for clients, how they move with the algorithms that seem to be, Jon, always moving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the paid side of things, so it's interesting. It's probably important to make the distinction that the paid side of things is very different from the organic side of things in that, changes to the algorithm on the organic side of things don't necessarily really impact the paid side of things. They're impacting what's, showing up in the 10 blue links and the AI overviews and things like that. Whereas on the paid side of things, while things do change very, very often, I will say there probably is, there's maybe less volatility than on the organic side of things. And part of that is because, Google's goal is very, very consistent on the paid side of things, which is ultimately they want to make money. But they know the way they make money is by providing the most relevant ads possible to people because they get paid when people click on ads. And so the higher the click-through rate is on your ad, combined with what they're able to charge you per click is how they make the most money. And so the ads algorithm is all about, looking at things like click-through rate for your ads, looking also at landing page experience because Google wants to see that people are finding the right information after they click your ads because otherwise they might be less likely to click an ad next time. And Google wants them to click an ad. So they want them to have a good experience. So they're looking at all these different factors to ultimately say, hey, which ad is most relevant and then also is bidding competitively for a click. And so Google will make good money and also give a good experience to the Google user when they engage with this ad. And so from a marketing perspective, an advertising perspective, it's all about, targeting, making sure we're getting in front of the right people because I don't want clicks from the wrong people. That's a waste of my money. It's about having the best ad copy possible so that people are finding our offers engaging, they're finding them relevant, clicking through to our websites, having the best landing pages possible so that when they get to the websites, we're converting as many of them as possible into customers or leads or whatever the goal is. And they're having a good experience. They're not clicking right back and we just wasted money on that click. And then also, always leveraging the new stuff that Google is putting out. Google will put out new features where you can, tweak how your ads look, or maybe different, bidding strategies so that you can try and get more sophisticated in choosing how much you're going to spend for this search versus that search. And so there's tons of stuff behind the scenes that go into it. But at the end of the day, it's really about, relevance and getting in front of the right people with the right message at the right time.
So thanks for that. That was great. So here's my question. When I open up my browser, it used to open up to Google, and now it opens up to ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And so how is Google getting in front of that? It seems to me that there's this, I remember I heard it on a podcast a couple of years ago that, we were going to move from Google searches to, asking Alexa, where's the top 1, 2, or 3 places. And now ChatGPT has changed everything. The smarter it gets, the more connected to the web it gets. How is Google looking at that and saying, okay, now the game has really changed. Mm-hmm. So how does that work now?
Google is very concerned about that. and you can see that in the actions that they're taking to combat it. So there are some very obvious changes Google has made just in terms of what we can see as consumers. The biggest one being AI overviews. So now when you go to Google, you search for something, very often the first thing that comes up is an AI overview where Google's trying to answer your question, provide context through, AI generated content. And then they'll provide sources to that. So you can still click through to links, or you can scroll down and, look at ads, look at other organic results, etc. But that is the most obvious way they're trying to combat it in terms of the actual Google search engine. And then, of course, they also have Google Gemini, which you can think of as their version of ChatGPT, which they're also trying to promote heavily and get people to use. And there's a lot of unknowns right now. So at the moment, from just a percentage, like a search market percentage share, ChatGPT has a very, very small percentage of the search market, but it is growing at a fast rate. Now, it's going to take some time, before it's anywhere close to the size of Google, because it's so small right now compared to Google. But the trajectory of growth is something that Google and I think everyone else is watching very, very closely.
Yeah.
And I would say the jury is very much still out right now in terms of how many people will really make the switch. I do think that there are buckets of people. So I think people like you, like me, who live more in this tech world are more likely to be early adopters of things and see that value and make the change like you've done to ChatGPT as your default. Whereas the majority, I would say, of people are not necessarily in that bucket, and they just have habits that have been built over time. You go to Google, it's the default for everything. It's tied to Google Maps, it's tied to Gmail, it's tied to et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it will take a while for kind of this next bucket after early adopters to really change these habits and start going to ChatGPT as a search engine. But it might happen. And if it does, Google's in trouble.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. I mean, there's a book I read years ago. I'm thinking maybe you read it, Crossing the Chasm. And it talks about how, the innovators and the early adopters, that's what I was saying, because, they're the first people in it. And then it's the kind of I think it's like the early, and then the late, the early majority, the late majority, and then the laggards. And that makes up a big piece of it. So we'll see. Yeah, I get what you're saying. The jury's still out. So my question to you before we get into a quick speed round is, I'm a business coach. I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies and everything in between. I think a lot of times the perception is, we have to be a really big company to do Google ads, or because it's just too expensive, or it's just this. I know this kind of touches on my initial question too about, well, you can get fast responses. But to those companies who need it, but don't maybe have the cash flow to get it, where do they start? How do they best utilize it?
Yeah, Google Ads is applicable for almost every size business out there, potentially. I'm not going to say every single business should be using it, because some shouldn't. But we have clients spending $500, $1,000 a month, as an example. Small local businesses who are not big by any stretch of the imagination, but they're able to get profitable results because they're going after a small area. They don't need to capture the world. They just need to capture the people in their small town who are looking for their specific service. And so, you don't have to have a massive budget, but you do have to have enough budget relative to kind of what you're targeting. So what I mean by that is, if you are, let's say you're a personal injury attorney, well, that's one of the most expensive spaces to be in, because a case could be worth $1 million, and so you could be spending $300-$400 for a single click in that space. And if you come to us and be like, "Hey, our budget's $1,000 per month," no, that doesn't make sense. You get 2-3 clicks and you're done. Like that doesn't work. But if you are, let's say you're a local business who is, selling, I don't know, plumber may or may not be the best example, but let's just say a plumber. You're in a small town, you're a plumber, you just need people to know that you're there when they search and say, my toilet's broken or my sink is leaking or whatever. $1,000 might get you what you need and might get you a great return on your money. So really what we do is we look at, what are you targeting? What are your goals? What's the cost to look like in your industry, to get a sense for what budget do you really need to invest at a minimum for it to be worthwhile getting into that, getting into Google Ads.
That's great. Good. This was like a mini master's class. This was great. All right. Quick speed round. A book that's had a big impact on you.
$100 Million Leads by Alex Ramosi.
He's great. Those are great books. Yeah. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Hire slowly, fire quickly.
Yeah. I would add very to that. Yeah.
Yes.
And finish the sentence. One thing everybody can do today to look at their business with new lenses, when they overlay starting to use Google Ads to get information faster, the first thing they should do is
pretend to be a customer. Go Google yourself online. Try to forget your biases of what comes up and just see, what do you actually look like to a potential customer who's checking you out online? What's your reputation look like?
That's great. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are, Jon, and where they can connect with you.
Small to medium-sized businesses spending pretty much anywhere, let's say up to $70K a month in ad spend is probably a sweet spot. And they can connect with us, StubGroup.com.
That's great. Jon, this was great. Thank you so much. Think Community, we talk a lot about marketing, branding, growing your brand, investing in your company. One of the things, Jon said a lot of stuff to help you get unstuck in your business, one of which is really for, a couple $100 a month for a small company, and you can spend as much money as you want. The larger you can get information and beta test and get information faster to help you make better decisions on how to move forward. I loved what you shared about that, along with everything else that you shared. Think Community, if Jon can help you, reach out to him at StubGroup.com, Jon.
That's right.
And you can reach me at JonDwoskin.com if you want to talk about any business coaching. Jon, thank you so much. This was a great podcast on all the fundamentals of Google Ads. Thanks so much.
Jon, thanks so much for having me on.